With me today is Tom Hubel. Tom is a whistleblower and fraud fighter that has been involved in litigation that was on track to recover millions of our tax dollars. Tom was represented by Alan Grayson, who is currently a congressman for District 9 in Orlando, Florida. Tom has saved a career total of $3.5 billion in taxpayer dollars, which includes the largest cumulative cost savings in the history of the Kennedy Space Center. He was sponsored by Senator Bob Graham to the GSA Industry Government Council, where he provided advisory recommendations in support of a $30 billion contracts program. Mr. Hubel holds a degree from the Florida State University and is certified by George Washington University School of Law in his area of expertise. He has been recognized by the Washington Times, the Washington Technology Journal, the Washington Spectator, and the Project on Government Oversight for his achievements and fraud-fighting efforts.
Let's get ready to rumble. Thank you, Colonel Bob, and thanks to Syndicated News for featuring me on this segment.
I understand through a publication at opensalon.com that you intend to sue Alan Grayson and his partner Victor Kubli for $3.5 million. Our research also indicates that you are friends with Alan Grayson. Is this true?
We were friends, but not anymore. When I met Alan, I've been fighting fraud for approximately 20 years, and I thought I finally met somebody that I could respect. After all, Alan has a law degree from Harvard, and I was completely sold on Alan, and it came at a time right after I had a stroke, and after I recovered, I was kind of tired of going it alone. I believed that we were destined to do great things. We had grown fairly close. I'd go over to his house, would break bread, we'd talk about the case, we'd talk about his campaign. I trusted Alan.
What about the articles in the press and the tabloids that depicted Alan Grayson as leading the charge against fraud?
Grayson was touted by Rolling Stone magazine, Vanity Fair, the Wall Street Journal as the one-man war on contractor fraud. I thought I could join forces with Alan and clean up the billions in fraud that the U.S. Department of Justice routinely neglects. It turns out that all the tabloid hype was just that. It was hype. It was fraudulent. The man who is on the record for being a fraud fighter is actually fraudulent in himself, and it was all a deception to support his campaign.
So there must have been an event or breaking point that changed the course of your friendship with Alan Grayson and his representation of you as your attorney.
Sure was. There was an $8.9 million settlement signed by the company I sued, and they deposited $1.5 million into a holding account. Unfortunately, it required the U.S. Department of Justice to sign off on it. Alan and Victor, his partner, Victor Kubli, started to become evasive. When I pushed them to resolve matters with the DOJ, they would become more evasive, and started to lie. I caught them in many lies. They lied about a law enforcement investigation that never occurred, which stopped the settlement proceedings from moving forward. They lied about escrow accounts that were never established. They lied when they told me that resolution with the Department of Justice was imminent, when all they were doing was slow rolling me. And they just outright lied on many occasions. They did everything they could to drive a wedge and cause impasse with the Department of Justice. They placed their own interests before mine for 9 months while the defendant was preparing for trial. They didn't even prepare me for direct or cross-examination.
That's amazing. Then it's true that you intend on suing? What's the basis of your claim?
Yes, it's true that I intend on suing Alan Grayson and Victor Kubli for legal malpractice.
Can you give us some of the details?
I can give you many instances of malpractice that support my claim, which can all be read in the complaint. Grayson and Kubli are guilty of committing malpractice by ignoring the Department of Justice specific instructions to use their standard agreement. The most damning development in my favor, however, are the defense attorneys who represented the company I sued, who are willing to go on the record that my boss would actually have signed the government standard agreement. Even co-counsel that Grayson and Kubli hired is now on the record that there was a conflict of interest between Grayson and Kubli's interests and mine.
So let me get this straight. The defendant would have signed the government's agreement. The government would have signed the government's agreement since it was their template, and you would have signed the government standard agreement. Is this correct?
It's correct, and it's the cornerstone of my case. There is a but-for standard of law that applies to legal malpractice that was clearly met. An executive settlement, an executed settlement, would have been realized that included the government signature, but for Grayson and Kubli's insistence to neglect the DOJ instruction by replacing the standard agreement with their own, which was motivated by their own self-serving interest and greed.
It seems that your attorney sold you out. I just want to say that while you have gone unnoticed, I respect you for standing in the trench for all of us and fighting the good fight by yourself. It must have been a lonely road, and I'm sure it was very trying.
It's been very trying at times, and thanks for the kind words. It's a long haul when you're a whistleblower, and it's a lonely road. My father was one of the original Green Berets. He was an officer inducted at original 10th Group under the command of Colonel Aaron Banks. Colonel Banks established all U.S. Special Forces, and that legacy helps compel me to continue to fight fraud and corruption. I don't know how we can turn and ask our young men and women to kill and lay down their lives when the corruption that I fight compromises their safety by depriving them of body armor and other necessities, while those who are on the take keep getting richer and richer.
Is there a reason you agreed to this interview?
I would not have taken this interview if my back was not flush up against the wall. It seems as if I've been fighting waste, fraud, and abuse for much of my adult life. It's thankless. It's something that anybody who really truly knows what's involved in being a fraud fighter would absolutely run the other way. It's thankless. I've lost savings. I've lost my health, many years of my life from trying to deliver justice in a system corrupted by those like Grayson and Kubli. This isn't about a political agenda. And this is why I waited until after the elections to launch this crowdfunding campaign. I just want to bring Grayson and Kubli to justice. I'll continue to fight against waste, fraud, and abuse. I have a passion and a strong conviction to protect our tax dollars.
How can I help?
I need money. I need money to pay attorneys to take the case against Grayson and Kubli. Few attorneys will sue other attorneys. Even fewer will take a case like this on a contingency basis. I have to turn to the people I've been fighting for in order to be able to retain and pay attorneys to bring Grayson and Kubli to justice. This is why I'm turning to crowdfunding. It is a humbling experience. I've never had to go to anybody with a hat in my hand. And I guess in a strange way, I have to face down this part of my ego and accept outside help and support. I am turning to American people to send a strong message that it's not right for attorneys to abuse their station in life when attorneys are sworn to serve the law and upstanding officers of the court. I hope to direct a significant portion of any settlement award to establish a grassroots effort to help whistleblowers who are wronged by the judicial system. I need your help and the help of the American people. Please stand with me.
There's no doubt in my mind that we need to have more people like you who are willing to stand up just because it's the right thing to do. Our country seems to be adrift with the root cause being fraud and corruption. That's what you're fighting. Thank you on behalf of myself and Syndicated News for your time and service to protect the taxpayer.
Thank you, Colonel Bob. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time.